So are European leaders doing enough to ease fears about the region's debt crisis? Bill Evans is the chief economist at Westpac and he joins us now. So, Bill Evans, European leaders have met 14 times over the last 21 months. Is the world any closer to a solution to this problem?
Ros, to me the key aspect is how they can restore growth to Europe, because even if they convince people to have more confidence in the existing debt, there's going to be new debt coming out all the time as these economies run budget deficits, and that's the problem. When you've got a fixed exchange rate, you've got banks that are having to find more capital, and that means cutting back on their assets, and you've got no flexibility on interest rates and fiscal tightening. Very hard to see growth coming out of that region, and that means more debt. And the problem just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
And as nations cut back their spending in order to pay off that debt, they risk running into recession.
That's correct, and we've already seen that in Greece, of course, and I would expect that Spain and Italy and Portugal are very close to that situation as well. So we have to think not only about how do they deal with the current debt, but what about all this new debt that's inevitably going to come out of the system.
Now, there are reports that the French president will be calling his Chinese counterpart tomorrow to see if China can help. Where will that take things?
Well, that would be a positive in the sense that they've talked about recapitalising the banks by about 100 billion euros, but they haven't told us who is actually going to be doing that. The private sector would be very reluctant. The other solution is for the banks to cut back on their loans, which of course will be very negative for growth. And finally, of course, government involvement. But if there was an outsider, such as a Chinese sovereign wealth fund or a Middle Eastern sovereign wealth fund, that would certainly be a big positive and a big circuit breaker.
Is Australia starting to see any shockwaves from Europe?
Well, I think we continually see it through our financial markets, in particular the share markets. But also there is talk of the European banks that are quite important in this region cutting back on their lending and deleveraging, and that's having an impact. And I would expect the most vulnerable sector there would be the property sector.
All right, Bill Evans, thank you.
Thanks, Ros.